Welcome to Growth Beyond Boundaries, the podcast by the Astra Coach Alliance that explores the transformative power of coaching, leadership, and innovation. I'm your host, Andy Huckaba, and I'm so excited to have you join us. Here at the Astra Coach Alliance, we believe growth isn't just a goal, it's a journey. Whether you're a leader striving to inspire your team, a professional seeking your next breakthrough, or an organization ready to transform your culture, this podcast is for you. Each segment, we bring you stories, strategies, and insights from our team of seasoned coaches and leaders across industry. Together, we'll discover innovative approaches to fostering a culture built on success, accountability, and collaboration, rooted in both challenging and compassionate coaching practices. So if you're ready to go beyond boundaries and discover what's possible, you're in the right place. Let's get started. We have Phyllis Collins here. She is an ACC coach, right on the heels or right on the doorstep of becoming a PCC coach, right, Phyllis?
Let's hope and pray.
We're keeping our fingers crossed for you. Right. Phyllis is also one of the founding partners of the Astra Coach Alliance. And so I'm thrilled to have you here today on the podcast and want to just pick your brain a little bit. It seems to me that one of the barriers or challenges we have as coaches is to help our clients understand what coaching is. Do you see that in some of the clients you work with, Phyllis?
Some of the clients or all of the clients?
All of the clients, right?
Yeah, I would say it's better now than it used to be. When I first got into coaching, I would say a lot, most people, even in the development field, so definitely clients did not have an understanding or even a thought per se of coaching as we know it today.
What did they think coaching was back then?
I would say that it fell into two categories. As your background, Teresa's background, my background, we all have backgrounds in training. We pretty much came out of that background. And I think all of us had opportunities to teach coaching skills to managers. So those that received that kind of coaching thought of coaching as, how do I coach my people to do better or to take them from one place to another? And I, as their leader, how can I help them do that? So we would give them
coaching, teaching leaders and managers how to coach their people, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
But then when you would talk to people outside or leaders in general, and you would say, in fact, I remember even before I left corporate America, I was in an organization and in a notorious group, quite frankly. The organization was great, but I kind of fell into this notorious group. And one of their favorite sayings was, "Can I give you some coaching on that?" And all I can say is, if you can see my body language and face, is you always knew that meant trouble. And can I give you some coaching on that? Implied they were going to give it whether you said yes or no. And it was always going to be some type of feedback that you did not want. So it wasn't coaching. It was almost using the word coaching to mean, here's something you did wrong. Or here's something I think you did wrong.
So it was one of those corrective type of situations, and the terminology kind of tied into that corrective.
Right. And so it became like a joke that when people would say, "Can I give you some coaching?" It was a negative. So, and I do think that's out there still a little bit, but a lot of people thought coaching meant, let me correct you. And so now, even now, one of the things when we go into organizations, I know I ask always is, I ask the client or the potential client, tell me, what is your understanding of coaching? Because it's all over the place, but I would say it tends to fall in the good, want to help, want to move people, and then the other one is want to correct people.
Okay. And what do you think the percentage breakdown of those two are as you're just thinking back over the past couple years?
In the past couple of years, I would say, in all honesty, it's 50-50, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's 50-50 at best. I think it's moved because I would say it used to be maybe 80-20, 80 corrective, 20 positive. I think it's more 50-50 now, which is I think it's a great improvement. And I think as the coaching profession has done its job, and I think as people have experienced coaching either at the executive level and then they push it down through their organization, I think it is starting to be a more, oh, that was helpful. That's engaging. I am truly just helping my people. And instead of training them, I know they have the skills, so I just need to coach them. So I think it's about 50-50. How about you?
Yeah, I'm kind of with you, and I haven't really thought about this that much.
Mm-hmm.
But as I look at it, I've had a number of times where they have a problem employee or a problem executive in some cases who their mindset is, well, let's use coaching to coach this person out
Out.
of the organization, right? As
Right.
opposed to coach this person up in
Right.
terms of their abilities, their skills, their perspective. And that's not what coaching is,
Not at all. No.
right? That may be a role for a consultant in some cases
Mm-hmm.
to step in and identify people or areas that just aren't getting the job done.
Right.
But I don't
And
think it's a place where coaching plays very well.
no, and the only time that I have seen that, well, I've never seen that play well, but coaching, good, strong coaching within an organization can lead people to their own conclusions to this is not for me, or this is for me, or my current position isn't for me, but there's another position in the company. So coaching can help people make decisions about transition, but coaching doesn't come in with a strong motive other than how do we help people achieve the goals that they say that they want to achieve, or how do we help organizations achieve the goals that they want to achieve. But I think we've all learned that if their goal ever touches on, I want to coach people out, there's a whole discussion around that as to, well, why is that? And the coaching actually now takes place with the person wanting to coach the person out
Right.
versus coaching the other person. So yes, but I do think it is getting better. I think coaching as a word is starting to go back to its more positive definition.
Right. Yeah. If we think about misconceptions about what coaching is, what are some of the things that come to mind for you? And we've touched on a few of these, but
Well, one is it's punitive. Um, the other one is when they think about, oh, we're going to be coached. It's going to be they're going to come in and tell us how to do things better.
ah,
And that's either on an individual basis and
right.
or group or a team or an organization. Well, they'll come in to tell us how to do it better.
To tell us,
To
right?
tell us. And the key word being tell us.
Right.
They'll tell us how to do it better. When in reality, and this is something that when I do workshops where I introduce coaching, or I think my workshops, I try to make them coach-like anyway. And when I explain my background, I say, well, I'm a professional coach. And I said, for those of you who have had a professional coach, you start to learn coaches will ask more questions than they will give answers. And those who have had coaches always shake their head up and down. Yeah, I learned that. Because as coaches, we we try desperately never to tell anyone because that's not coaching. Now you're telling. That's a whole other profession.
Right.
And in training, you might tell somebody, but in coaching, you assume that the people come to that coaching session with everything that they need versus training, which might be more telling. And in fact, when I first came into the profession of training, it was even described as training assumes. I don't know if this is the real definition, but I always liked it and I always use it. Training assumes the person does not know what you're about to tell them. So you're giving them new skills, or you're taking their current skills to another level. Okay. So you could ask them a question, stare at them, and they could never come up with the answer on how to do something because they don't have the experience or the knowledge yet.
And coaching assumes
that they do have the knowledge, the wherewithal, the experience, the opportunities even, yet for some other reason, they're not taking it. So it could be, do I really believe in myself? Do I have the confidence? It's not they don't know how to. They may not have the confidence to do something. So you'll coach them more around the confidence, not the to do. Or what I know to do is no longer working, but that still implies that they have experience that they can draw upon. They have working knowledge, life experience that they can draw upon now. And then the coach helps them to draw upon those things. So that's how I see the difference. One, they really don't know how. Coaching, they've got a sense of how to do it or experience with it, but now let's take it really up a whole other notch.
Yeah. In my experience, coaching gets confused often with mentoring, with consulting, with therapy. And it's not any of those, is it?
No, none of those.
What makes it different than, let's just start with mentoring?
Well, actually, if I were to apply it to all of those, the training, the mentoring, the consulting, and the therapy.
Yeah, right.
I think the overall difference is coaching allows the person in on their own solution. And mentoring shows a way. I mean, and these may not again be the official definitions, but mentoring says, I've been there before and let me bring you along from my experience. Consulting is, we have all of the degrees, we have all of the certifications, we have all of the things that you need, that we need to tell you how to do it. So you don't have to learn all of what we know.
Yeah.
And then therapy is more of, you might participate, but in the end, I'm in control of this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think of coaching is really more, in fact, when I think of coaching, the saying is, if the coach is doing most of the training, then I'm not so sure we're coaching. So in coaching, it's actually, if you even think about just the literal act of coaching, the participant, the thinker, the person that you're working with, they are the ones controlling that conversation overall, or what is brought into that conversation.
One of the metaphors that I use that I find particularly helpful in terms of communicating what coaching looks like is the metaphor of the person being coached driving the vehicle with their hands on the steering wheel. And the coach sitting in the passenger seat, more as a navigator, somebody to talk through the options, somebody to be that other set of eyes and ears. And in the metaphorical situation, the coach would never reach from the passenger side to grab the steering wheel of the person being coached, right? Because that would be dangerous. Right? And so we keep our hands off of the steering wheel and let them steer, let them lead where they want to go. And we're there as a thought partner, a thinking partner, right?
Right.
To help them explore things that will ultimately help them move forward to wherever they choose they want to go. And that metaphor could be drawn out, right?
Right.
In a lot of different places, because when they get behind the wheel in a real car, you get behind the wheel, you sort of have an idea where you want to end up
Right.
most of the time. You don't
Right.
just drive, you have some sense of where you want to end up. And so part of the coaching work is to clarify where do you want to end up?
Right.
What's our target? What's our destination?
Right.
And then that then becomes kind of the thing to get the vehicle moving in the right direction.
Right. So, and if I'm hearing, what I would say to that is, you sound like you're describing partnership.
Ah, yes.
So I would even say comparing coaching for an organization when they bring in or start a mentorship program, consultants. I don't know if they bring in therapists, they offer therapists.
Yeah.
um, Again, all of those imply one is taking charge,
Yes.
and coaches are more partnering with the individual.
Yeah. One of the ways I explain it is when we are coaching someone, the person we're coaching is the expert in their lives,
Yes.
the expert in their work.
And
We as
we are the
coach
experts,
in the
experts in
process of
coaching in the
coaching.
process.
That's
Right.
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 But a consultant, when a consultant shows up, the consultant's the expert in seeing the patterns and making
Mhm.
the recommendations. The mentor is the expert. That's because they've lived that world.
They've
They've
lived it. Right.
they've experienced things. They've then come alongside of somebody to help nurture them, hopefully into a successful thing.
And
Um, a
often give them feedback.
and who's the expert in when you have a therapist and a client? Who's
Right.
the expert there? Well, it's the therapist. And
Mhm.
who's the expert in a classroom? The teacher.
Right.
So where coaching really differentiates is the coach is not the expert in your life. The coach is an expert in the process of coaching, but not in your life. You are the expert in that. And it becomes very focused on you and your progress.
Right. Oh, I would agree. I would definitely agree. And that's one of the challenges uh, when speaking to organizations about coaching, is almost sharing that type of comparison.
Yeah.
We are not trainers. We can train, but we are not trainers. We are not consultants. We are not therapists. And we are not, what was the other, the mentors. Those are all programs that you can have in your developmental toolkit.
Yep.
But we are actually a whole other tool to use. And I think organizations oftentimes, even though it's getting better, I don't know that they always know coaching is a tool for my organization, or a resource. I don't want to say a tool, but more of a resource, a developmental resource for my people, for my organization. And so that, I think that's sometimes our challenge is, but the good news is they will call us for other backgrounds they know, our training background. And I would even say it starts with training almost all the time.
They will.
Almost for training of some sort. I need to train my people. We're not meeting our goals. We're not getting things done. Things are going a little haywire. I need training. I need to train my people. And we get an opportunity as part of just talking with them to really see what is it that their people need training in. And as you start to ask good coaching questions, quite frankly, you find out it's not so much training. They've almost been trained to the highest levels. What they now need is a different development intervention, and coaching is one of them.
Yeah.
And then it's a
So, so,
discussion of, oh, go ahead.
so why doesn't training alone just solve the problem? I mean, you and I have both been in front of classrooms, and we've poured our hearts out and our stories out and our experience out to people. And why isn't that enough?
And I think it's not enough because you can give the greatest training. And we've been like you said, in those situations where the people are at the end of the day, they are keeping their main takeaways, they are putting together their action plans. And if we've done our jobs in a great way, they are excited to go back and truly implement and do the things that they just learned. And remember, they've learned something new that they didn't know coming in, and now they have more information to go do it.
Oh, Phyllis has been to training again.
right.
Right?
And they go back excited, and that's exactly their staff is like, oh, here we go again.
Uh-oh.
They're coming back excited with that training stuff. But the difference is a day in, a weekend, a month in, what they have done is they go right back into that environment that they left.
Right.
And the other people haven't necessarily gone to the training. They aren't that excited. And more importantly, life just takes back over. Their work schedules were heavy when they went to the training. They're heavy when they get out of training.
They fall back into the pattern.
They go right back into the pattern. And now we
Right.
don't even have the time. And they might look at that notebook with all of those good action items, but they still don't have the time to do it. Or that's what they tell themselves. I still don't have the time to do it. I still don't know what to do it. And before you know it, there's dust.
Do they not know where to start?
They don't know.
Is that part of the problem?
No, because at that point they have 10 people outside of their door waiting for them with answers. And then about the fifth person in, they realize this is the thing I went to training for, and I'm failing.
Yes.
Because I still am not implementing this. And what coaching does, and I think that's why training alone doesn't work. It's not the person's fault. It's not the trainer's fault. It's not the training material's fault. It is life just keeps going. And now it's coaching is now something, and I call it follow-on coaching. In fact, this is just well, it's interesting to me. I don't know about anyone else, but it was through my training with a client, and I talked to them about, maybe we should put in some follow-on training, and I called it just that, follow-on training. And I wrote up a proposal. I described it, and this was back in the early days of coaching. And they would read it, and it was kind of like, okay, that's interesting. I thought, okay, writing about coaching is not working. So then I would have conversations with them. And over time, I would say, does this sound like a good process? And they're like, yeah, but we just never had that before.
Yes.
Okay. So we'd have that conversation with them almost at the end of every big training round. And finally, they would even say, yes, but now I'd like to see this. I can understand, because a lot of times you're dealing with HR and they understand how development works too. They know that training standing alone, they don't always get their bang for their buck. So one time I asked and I said, well, do you see a reason why we shouldn't do this? And they said, no. I said, okay. Came time for training the next year. They had big development programs for their first-time supervisors all the way up through their VP levels. And this was in a financial organization. And I just went ahead and added the coaching into the process, period. I just called it.
Right.
Said, well, what do you suggest that we do? Because we had a great relationship. They said, well, what do you suggest we do next year for our training? And it was like, okay, let's keep this. And I said, and then I'm just going to add like a couple of sessions of some follow-on coaching. And they were like, oh, okay. They didn't ask another question about it. I just called it follow-on training. 2 little sessions, 2 follow-up sessions, follow-on sessions. We did it. And lo and behold, before they knew it, they were having follow-on coaching. And it was in those follow-on coaching sessions that you could see what was between implementing their great training action items and what was standing between that and them actually doing it.
Right.
Well, once you could dissect that in a coaching session, well, then you had then you could see the difference between standalone training and training with the follow-on coaching.
Love it. Love you talking about that. And, I am a strong believer that training really needs coaching to follow it to be able to be as effective as people want it to be. So thank you for laying that out.
Well, can I
Let's,
say something? I think that's why you, Teresa, and I are kind of all on one accord with that Astra, in that we all have discovered that in our careers, that we know the value of training, but we also know the value of coaching. And we don't offer it separate anymore. We
right.
rarely offer training as a standalone because we know the value that follow-on coaching will give it.
I tend to almost reverse those or flip those where I start with coaching, and through some of the coaching work, there are areas that training is needed.
Right.
And we bring those to bear. So let's talk about, when does coaching make sense for a person, for an organization? What are the situations that people are saying, well, I'm in this right now? When does coaching make sense?
I think it definitely makes sense when people feel they're just going, people and organizations feel they're just going round and round and round, and they're doing something, but they're not making progress.
Uh,
They're doing something, but they're not hitting their goals, or they're doing something, even hitting their goals, but everybody feels miserable. So something is just out of whack. And I think that's where coaching comes in. When they themselves recognize we're doing everything we've been taught to do, we're doing what we say we're going to do, but yet we are still not achieving what we want to achieve, or we're not feeling the way we want to feel about how we are achieving our goals. And so coaching now is an option. I even say, if I go back to the whole follow-on coaching, I think coaching is a follow-on training. I'm sorry. Coaching can be a follow-on to many things. Some companies, for whatever reason, they do engagement surveys, either because they've been told or because they feel like they have needed it. And they're excited about it. They do it, but then they get the results. Now what? Coaching coaching is a great option now to consider, because again,
right,
it's probably not a people don't know how to do something, it's something else.
right.
So I say it's always a good follow on when you have done some major initiative.
Yeah,
We know that there are organizations who will invest in, we're going to do a big leadership development campaign. They do it, they're excited, it's done. And
they
again,
check the box.
they check the box, and at the end of the year, nothing has changed. So those are great interventions. So I think sometimes when you don't know what else to do, just as you were thinking, what is our next step? I would offer, consider coaching as a developmental next step. Because I
Yes.
think a lot of companies just don't know that that's a possible next step. They know all of the other ones. Consulting's been around forever. Training's been around forever. Mentoring's been around forever. Coaching has not been around forever. And I think people are, at least my clients, and I think even our clients is at Astra, they're finding a difference when you put in coaching, because coaching can be done one-on-one, your leadership, as you promote new people, succession planning.
Yes.
We've had experience where succession planning, and I think it's not only our clients, I think it's nationwide, probably international, that as the baby boomers have left, I'm not so sure baby boomers have done the best job getting ready to leave.
All right.
And so now, as they learn to take their hands off the reins, sometimes even learning to take your hands off the reins, coaching can be used.
Requires coaching,
Yeah,
right?
because it's not about just taking your hands off. It's a mindset now. You're
Yeah.
coaching mindset. You're not coaching techniques. And in fact, as we know with that Astra, when we talk about there's a technical process that can be done, and then there's an adaptive process. You know how to leave a company. There's a technical process of things that you need to set in place and get done. But now, how do you get everybody mentally ready for that transition? So transitions are also any type of transition, but succession planning transitions are one where coaching definitely would come into play.
Some of the thoughts that are going through my mind right now, Phyllis, I agree with absolutely everything you said here. And I think that some of our listeners, some of the organizations might look at coaching as we bring coaching in to fix this. But we know from our friend and mentor, Marsha Reynolds, that we coach the person, not the problem. Right?
Right.
So when I say that, what's your response to that? I know you agree with it because we've had
Oh,
these conversations before, but when we talk about coaching being, let me put it a different way, coaching is relational, it's not transactional.
right.
We're not trying to fix this problem or do this thing. We're trying to help a person grow, a person's perspective to increase, a person to understand the barriers in front of them and the options of how they might navigate that. But it's
That,
relational, not transactional.
no. And I sometimes think relation, transactional, technical versus adaptive.
Yeah.
If I even pick like those two situations of succession planning, again, the quote unquote problem is working through person A turning the company over to person B.
Mm-hmm.
Person A not being the same as person B. The coach the person is, what are your plans after you turn your company? How do you feel? How do you want to feel as you end well here? It's more of a, now it's about them, not the nuts and bolts of transitioning the company, but the now about you.
And so, how does that help them solve the problem that they're working on?
I think when you it's almost a reframing. When you reframe, you listen to maybe some of the roadblocks as to why they won't take their hands off the reins.
Uh,
You can start to feel that it's not that they, for example, it's not that they don't truly want to transition out. It's a fear of what am I going to be without my company? And if I can discover who I'm going to be after this, I can more freely leave that. So we know the transition is going to happen. But as a person, how are you? How are you going? And these are those coaching, I always call them the coachy questions. How will you be during this process? Who will you be during this process? Who will you want to be? Who do you need to be during this process? That's more about the person. And then as they get comfortable with that, the technical aspects of letting go of something become easier. If I were to eat, and that's at a high level. I can even think back to first level supervisors. Again, work with a lot. My background is in accounting, as you know. So
yes.
worked with a lot of financial people. Company called in and said, We've got all of these technically smart people who are refusing to apply for the next position, refusing, turning it down because they don't feel comfortable working with people. Literally got into a class, and the one person spoke it out loud, but there were others who looked at them because these were accountants and it was heavy introvert, which is not the norm. Class 80% introverts, 20% extroverts. And one person said in all sincerity, "So you mean I have to talk with my people?" I would have laughed if I didn't have so many other people listening for the answer. And I thought, oh. And that was the difference. They did not feel, many of them literally just didn't feel comfortable. That was not their strong suit, dealing with people. Their strong suit was being technically the smartest people in class, technically being the smartest people in the company. But that's also the people they want to start promoting. And that's not unusual just in financial companies. They do something great. They now get promoted, but these were not only people who weren't comfortable being leaders, these were people who were not comfortable and would tell you to your face dealing with other people's stuff. Like they weren't the most comfortable dealing with people issues, period, or with people. And so in dealing with the coaching the problem, again, whole list of to-dos on how to be a good supervisor. That's coaching the problem.
Thousands of books.
Maybe
millions of books.
Millions of books. Can go on Amazon today. Get some more books on how to be a better supervisor, better manager, better leader. But what does that have to do with me as a person getting out of my comfort zone?
Yeah.
Getting out of your comfort zone, there's not necessarily a one way to do that. Getting out of my comfort zone, and even learning to not do the technical anymore. Like, you're taking away my identity. How do I get comfortable with that? That's a whole other development situation, which I believe coaching applies to more.
Because having a coach,
relationship.
Having a coach on that journey with you.
Yes.
When you're trying to discover what my next step is, how do I act in this new role? How can I be most effective here?
Yes.
How can I experiment?
Hold my hand, somebody hold my hand, like you said, as I'm on this experimental journey, because I didn't go to college for this. So now, and I do want to progress in my career.
Yeah.
How do I do that and not make a fool of myself, knowing I like to be the smartest kid in the class?
Yep. That transition is so tough for people, especially for super performers.
Yes.
In technical environments. Yes. They're super performers. They're great at everything they do. Everybody knows they're great. They get all the accolades, and then they get promoted to be a manager or a supervisor or something beyond what that super performer excelled at.
Right. And they are out of their comfort zone. And that can be from a first-time supervisor. So from worker bee to supervisor, from supervisor to manager, from manager to director, you start getting pushed a little further and further out of your comfort zone. The good news is you've built up muscle. And again, you're the expert. How did you transition the first time, the second time, the third time? Well, you now are becoming an expert in transitions. Not the technical, but you're becoming an expert. Right. But again, having a coach as a partner, I don't know about you, and you tell me your thoughts on this. Oftentimes at the end of a coaching session, be it an individual or a group or a team, oftentimes they will say, just having this time to think through some things and having a sounding board, or just having this time to, quote unquote, confess I'm not good at this to somebody without feeling judgment. That's the best part of the coaching. We didn't teach
Well,
that thing.
that safe environment,
Right.
right? Where somebody can be vulnerable, they can be honest, they can be real, they can talk about the scary things that they don't want to talk to anybody else about.
Right. And we've
And,
built that container and held that space for them to do,
right,
while still giving them the work, but it doesn't seem like work. It's more now they get this time to think through it, work through it, experiment through
right.
it in a safe place.
Yeah. That safety can't be overemphasized. It's a big part of who we are as coaches and what we create in terms of the environment for coaching. And it's, well defined and laced in the coaching ethics from
Right.
the International Coaching Federation, which we've all signed on to and believe. And so that safety piece of it's critical. So as we kind of wrap up this discussion, what else should our listeners know? I know you've done some thought about this topic and um, what coaching is and what it looks like and how it feels. What kind of words would you like to use to kind of take us home?
I would say, since we're talking about coaching within organizations, whether we are coaching individuals within organizations, again, groups, teams, or the executive level. First, I would say, and I think we're doing better, I just would offer organizations, I would invite organizations to experiment, if I can use that word, experiment with coaching as a developmental process for your organization or for your people. Just consider that as, in the mix of developing your people, developing your organization. Consider coaching as one of those developmental opportunities. Because I think the more people experience it, the more people love it.
Yes.
And again, I know I'm biased. But we hear that when people have been given the opportunity to be coached in their organizations, they are extremely grateful to their organizations for that opportunity, because they didn't know initially what they were getting into, but after they experienced it, they understand the value not only for themselves, but they take, again, those coach-like conversations into their own organization. So there's so many ripples and waves and effects of coaching one individual in an organization. And until people experience it, I have to say, it's sometimes hard to explain it.
Right.
I sometimes wish I had a fast, easy way to explain coaching, but still don't. Getting better. I think we as a profession are getting better. But I do know the more that people are experiencing it, the easier it is for people to co-sign the difference that coaching has made for them and or their organizations. So I would just
Fantastic.
say, be open to the coaching process as a process.
Yes. Phyllis Collins, you're a rock star.
Oh, I don't know about
Love
that.
having you as a partner, and thank you for taking the time to just share your perspectives and knowledge today.
Thank you, and coach on.
Thank you for joining us on Growth Beyond Boundaries. We hope today's episode gave you the inspiration and tools to push past limits and achieve meaningful growth. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd love for you to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your network. Your support helps us reach more people on their growth journeys. Remember, growth starts with one step, one conversation, and one decision to go beyond boundaries. Until next time, keep challenging the limits and discovering your potential. See you soon.